And we're live. And just like that, we've come to another Friday. Today is August 30th, 2024. The summer has come, the summer has gone. Although it is still quite nice. We have a lot of rain going on here. I don't know about you. The temperature is still quite lovely, 73. And my audio is working. I set it today to broadcast there for me. So we've got a good sound check. I'm welcoming everybody who's coming in. Today, I'm going to do a less of an on-screen thing, more of a strategy thing. I'm going to show you some examples, but today I wanted to talk about something that I really think is critical for those of us who are in the online business, because the technology that is available to all of our clients and customers is a very compelling thing compared to us doing service work. And the goal, quite frankly, like the title, it's for you to make more profit with less work, whether it be servicing your own business using your WordPress online site or whether it be for clients. I just want to check something. I saw a bunch of folks come in and then a bunch of folks left. So let me just double check. Everything seems to still be running. If any of you guys are in there, just give me a shout out in the chat. It's very unusual, although Labor Day weekend is here, for folks to come in and then folks to go. So I just want to make sure it's all working. Okay, somebody's come back in, so just give me a high five if you're getting this okay on your end. Here's what I want to discuss. I'm going to set the scenario. There was a time when I first started doing online business back in about 2005, 2006. Now, that wasn't the very, very first time that I had done it, but it was the first time that I had done something when it was the online WordPress stuff. I moved from doing a platform solution called Ning, that was a social network for anything. I was trying to run a social network for folks that were interested in flying these really cool machines called trikes, which are like motorcycles with wings. And what I discovered, which was very interesting back then, and I'm happy to show some stuff. The company back then was called Widget Laboratory. Let me see. This is interesting. I shared the tab. Let me see. I guess I'll do it on this screen. Widget Laboratory. Let's see if this shows up in a Google search. It's been so long, it might not show up. The bottom line, and let me just share this a little bigger. Bottom line is, back in those days, in the social networking days where I started, everything was new. All of the toys, all of the technology. Here we go. A bunch of stuff that's in there, some of our products and services. It seems kind of quaint, and there's some of the TechCrunch stores. But all of the tools, all the technologies, all of those things were very quaint. And that is to say, the tools themselves were enamored. And I think many of us can relate to this when you look at something like your iPhone, right? An iPhone is an incredible device, but there was a time when cell phones first came out that there was like 20, 30, 40 different types of cell phones. There was just everything under the sun. And some of them, like Nokia and Trio and BlackBerry, good morning, Sharon, were essentially the attraction. It was the product. It was the toy. And very similarly in WordPress, when WordPress first came out and I started getting involved, which was around 2005, 2006, it was the tools, it was the toys, it was the technology. And many of my first business endeavors in WordPress, much like it was on the social network of Ning, involved, look, we've created a new toy, a new gimmick. So to set the stage for today, let's flash forward. And also change my white balance. I'm looking very blue this morning. Let's set the stage for today. We live now in a world where essentially there's an unlimited amount of free or nearly free automated tools, services, SaaS products, online website stuff that for yourself or your business can be infinitely distracting. And when I mean infinitely distracting, it's that if you went to the Home Depot and you wandered the aisles because you needed a screwdriver, you might not find one screwdriver. You will probably find 4,000 screwdrivers to choose from, which could turn the simple task of I need a screwdriver to turn a screw to hang, I don't know, a picture on the wall into an all morning affair of analysis, paralysis, and anxiety. And so I want you to think about that very carefully with regard to your own behavior. I get maybe 20, 30, 40 different subscriptions of news every day that come in about the latest toys and technologies, both from SaaS companies and AI and so forth. I certainly keep my feet in both of my feet in the water of WordPress as part of my job here to know what's the latest things that are happening today in the core, in the plugins, and whatever. And here's the problem. Problem is, I could spend every single waking moment of every day playing with those toys, learning about those toys, just goofing around, going from toy to toy to toy to toy to toy, and never actually get anything done anymore. Because we've reached the stage where the quantity of the toys, the complexity of the toys, the infinite power of the toys has reached it's endless, and it will just get worse. So what does one do? Well, besides having a sip of coffee, the solution to this predicament is simple. We go old school. We go old school. We go 1970s bell bottom. We're going back to the 70s. We're going with this. To a simpler time, a simpler day, where essentially you selected whatever it was that you wanted to wear, and it was your fashion statement. And you were unique because this picture isn't showing your side. You were unique because of what you wore. In other words, it wasn't a matter that everybody could have the exact same thing. I mean, the styles were similar, but it meant that you could be unique because you had something you handmade, or you had something that was just your own, or was something that you picked up on a trip to, I don't know, Bangladesh or something like that. I'm going to switch, by the way, because this is bothering me. I'm going to switch to sharing my tabs so I can browse around a bit better. Hold on. I thought I was being clever and I was sharing just the one tab, but I'm going to share the whole window. It's going to make us much happier. Okay. So for example, the 1970s, everybody had this unique style, right? 1970s styles. And yeah, you saw a lot of similarities, and you saw the weird haircuts, and you saw the bell-bottom jeans, and you saw the, you know, whatever. But somebody could literally be unique because they came up with a cool new hat, or they came up with a new shirt, or like Farrah Fawcett, she had that haircut, among other things. Bell bottoms and green appliances, not my favorite thing either. But to get to my point, so I don't lose all of you, in 2024, we're having a similar opportunity for anybody who makes their living with a WordPress-based website, either for themselves or for their clients, to go back to being the unique hairstyle, to being the unique bell-bottom pants, to being, this is late 60s, it looks like, but just to being this crazy outfit. I think I would love to see this make a comeback. This is super cool. And my kids' generations, 30, 35 years later, they're actually getting back into it. So what is it I'm talking about? I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you as a unique personality. You cannot compete in a world of infinite technology, infinite toys, infinite AI, infinite imposters. You cannot compete, let's just be clear, by trying to be everything to all people, trying to hide behind something that isn't really you, by trying to outdo the AI or the robot or the infinite cash that comes from private equity firms who are going to just crush your soul by taking your good idea and applying $1 trillion to it. What can you compete on? Being you. It's really simple. You can go back to the days of, like, I still have my computer here, my 1970s computer, my 1970s computer styluses. You go back to these days and find a pain point for your own business, or find the pain points that your clients suffer. And you act as the concierge, you act as the curator for solving that pain. But the thing that you're selling is not necessarily the automation. For example, you are not going to be applying AI bots to be a chatbot on their site. You are not going to be doing the old-fashioned voice jail for automating their phone systems. You are not going to be putting more words on the page that human beings with zero attention span cannot figure out how to read. Just the opposite. Instead, what you're going to end up doing, ironically, is you're going to be doing less work, more personal stuff. So let's add the screen back here. I'm a little back and forth. I apologize with the screen. You're going to have to deal with me today on that. Okay. So what does the more profit with less work mean? Well, let's start out with what is the thing that people will pay you for? Or what is the pain that you solve? And I've talked about this before. When we look at billboards, there's three components to it, right? So I don't know if a good sign will come up here, but here's a couple. Here's a couple good ones. I didn't actually. This one's pretty good. If you can kind of see here, open image in new tab. Let's see. See if I can pull this up a little bigger. Basically, on a billboard, you're making it clear that there is one pain point or one pretty picture, one pain point or one rainbow. Then you're essentially saying the next line is, what do you do about it? And then there's a call to action. Now, McDonald's is a little weird because this billboard maybe isn't a great example, but the idea is you need to find one thing as a primary. It doesn't have to be the only thing, but one thing that you are either solving as part of your business to your clients, or you need to help your customers understand that you're going to solve that kind of thing for them by offering the same tools. So in this case, it's a weird billboard, but it's saying essentially the price point, this must be an old billboard, of a Coca-Cola at McDonald's tastes like $1 million, but it's really only $1. And then they've got their branding, which is a weird call to action, but we all know the golden arches. So when you're driving on the highway, you're going to turn off at the next exit for that. But this is essentially saying, look, a lot of people want this amazing flavored cola, the taste that it brings, and it's going to make you feel like $1 million, but it only really costs $1 any size. And anybody who's driven on the highway knows sometimes, especially in America, people will drink 40 gallons of Coke. This one's interesting too. I kind of like this one. This one's explaining in words more than anything else. Somebody's got a gigantic wrecking ball right through their forehead. So pain right here. Tylenol gets you back to normal. Now, obviously, they're not selling the Tylenol right there on the street, but the idea is that's putting the brand in your head. You're going to know the next time that you go to the grocery store or the pharmacy, if you have this feeling, Tylenol, red, get back to normal. Okay. So, number one thing is you're selling a simple solution to a common pain for your greatest profit. Now, in terms of the nuances of this, let's talk about some examples. You could be an implementer in WordPress who does, let's say, oh, I do pretty websites. You could say, I will make you 3-page website, put a theme on there, put your stuff in there. That's still possible. But let's compare that in terms of profit for the amount of work to, I'm going to do your marketing automation. I'm going to install something that's a lead form that will collect every visitor to your site so that you can automatically follow up with them using, let's say, Fluent CRM, which is in the kit, which is a CRM along with Fluent Forms that doesn't cost your client anything else. It doesn't cost you anything like if you were using an external CRM or an external mailing program. So let's compare some numbers. And I'm just throwing these out here. A 3-page website done with Cadence or something else. I've shown this before. I've done some cool stuff, like even with the kit. Like I explained this one a couple months ago, and I'll use this as an example. The AE Parents Club. This was just done for the purposes of parents' weekends. It really solved a very complex problem. I charged them $300 to put this up. It took me about 20 minutes. It has one page on the front that just explains the weekend, and then a one-page checkout using launch flows and WooCommerce and so forth. And they explained to me, which was awesome, that they collected about $15,000 for the first time ever because this donation of $30 went out to 500 parents, and they could just very quickly use this feature to allow the parents to pay. But the parents thought this was amazing because they, for the first time ever, had a single, simple, elegant solution. Now, what do you think is more valuable to your customer or to a typical client? I'm going to make a pretty website that doesn't really do anything. I mean, it does, it just looks good and has my phone number and maybe has a contact form. Or I'm going to give you a solution for your lead intake, scheduling a call, taking payments for an event that is equally simple for you to set up for them. And this, by the way, could be for your business as well. But you can charge them $300 for the setup in a couple minutes time. And then what are they going to end up doing? They're going to end up wanting to stay in a relationship with you because when these events change, I just charged $100 to just change the words, right? I charge $97 a month for it to just exist. So $300 one time to set up, $97 a month, and then $100 for any hands-on changes. Let's do the math. $97 is roughly $1,200. It's about $1,147 a year, I think. That's almost $1,200 a year. $300 up front for about 10, 20 minutes of work because I just duplicated an existing launch kit and changed the first page and the checkout page with 4 products. And then anytime they wanted custom changes to this page, I charged them $100. They just had to give me the copy. I went in, clicked edit page, and using Cadence and Gutenberg, you know the rest. I just clicked on the design elements and that's it. I can actually make this a little smaller if I want, so you can see more of it. So super simple. Using the kit, using all the IKEA furniture that's in the kit, I was able to sell something that instead of being a one and done, like make me a pretty website and it never changes again, I've turned it into a pain point solution that cost me very little time. The initial setup was conversation and everything under an hour. I mean, a couple minutes to set up the pages and some basic stuff. And then they paid me every time they wanted custom work, but it just was a recurring revenue, sticky business model. It allowed me to have customers who paid again and again. And so let's talk about that. In terms of your profit with less work, in a world of infinite technology, what you're actually selling sometimes is not the tools themselves, but just that you're going to be the one who's going to take the time to know how to use the tools. It's really weird, but just think of it like this. My mom, who I love to death, I got a Roku TV for because she wanted to watch movies. Roku's remote control looks something like this. I have this is for an Alexa, you know, if I want to play music. Notice how simple these things are. Sorry, I'm not talking to you, Alexa. She thinks every time I mention her name. So, simple remote control. Imagine your client needs to use an online service that's relatively free or inexpensive, like a design tool like Canva, or they need to use Gmail, or they need to use something that allows them essentially to do what they do for their business. Like this Parents Club, what they were doing in the past is they were using Google Calendars and some kind of weird email and Venmo and all this stuff patched together that looked like a ransom note. I said, here's a simple solution. But the truth is, this is how my mom took the remote control. You see on the front, there's like the infrared right in front of that red button. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. There's like a little lens. This is how my mom took the remote control. She put it in her hand, and then she put her other hand in front of it to push the buttons, thereby defeating the whole point of the remote control. She took the simplest remote control possible. And by the way, my mom is not a total nincompoop, but she took the simplest thing possible, did the only thing you can do to defeat it by putting her hand over the operational lens and started pushing the buttons that way and was frustrated. Why isn't this working? My metaphor there is I was able to show her you need to hold it like this and use your thumb. That in and of itself was the metaphor for what I was able to deliver in value. And similarly, what I've found as of this year is that with all the infinite tools, curating out the complexities, curating out the obvious errors, making it simple for somebody to not feel like a nincompoop and just go, can you please help me? Can you show me how to use this ridiculously simple remote control of my website or whatever is enough. In that Parents Club example, they literally called me and said, we have about 3 or 4 other fraternities and sororities. We'd like to actually use this solution because it's the first time that we were ever able to collect all of the Parents Club's dues in one fell swoop, about 15,000 bucks. And the cost of the 97 a month and the $300 setup and the $100 change was like a minuscule fraction of what they actually collected. And it wasn't like their livelihood anyway. So that brings me to another point, which is, who are you servicing with your business? Where is the money actually coming from? In the early days, I'm not saying this isn't still possible, but in the early days, we had marketing techniques and deliverables that were more akin to creating content that people bought and self-serviced. So, for example, a membership site was like, even myself, let's make courses. Let's put infinite amounts of lessons in there. Let's say more and more and more and more and more. And the value was on more and more and more and more and more. Well, flash forward to today, people are, first of all, no longer enamored with the toys, and they have zero time, zero attention span. So more and more and more and more means you're on an infinite ride to it's going to not work. And the client's just going to bail because they can't deal with it. Instead, what they want is to be spoon fed. They want you to give them less, but more curated. One example of how I'm trying to achieve that with you guys is even in the documentation and stuff. So the concept to me is, if you wanted to make a basic membership site, I would rather give you 4 steps. That's it. This is the whole recipe. Because if I've already curated out the tools, the software, so you don't have to figure that out, you've got the ingredients. Why not go back to a 1970s recipe card, right? Oh, old-fashioned recipe card. Why not go back to that metaphor where mom used to have, like, well, they put me for an actual old-fashioned, but like a recipe card that just has just the simple ingredients on it, and you just know check, 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 and you're done with the recipe quick. When you have a client today, instead of more and more and more and more complexity, like let's have 25 courses with 64 lessons and 72 drip emails and all the rest of the stuff. Instead, your better bet is to say, here's an idea. How about you just have everything starts with a free call? Because if it starts with the free call, like I do here, right? Let's scale this down. If it starts with a free call, you get the opportunity to hear what the person's pain point is and actually deliver to them any number of things that might be under the hood. For example, I might have a SKU of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've got about 13 things plus a bunch of variations. Probably have about 20 SKUs. There's no way that I want to allow people to browse through my Home Depot shelves looking for screwdrivers here. Instead, I want to get them into the free call because I know that the time it takes for them to do a free call with me is minuscule compared to me being able to identify for them, this is the pre-made thing that I have for you. And let's use that as an example back to other businesses. I've had several calls this week with really smart and talented, entrepreneurs. This applies to the same content and material that they would have otherwise been delivering through evergreen courses or through cohorts, because the clients themselves are willing to pay for the personal attention. Like I've said before, when I go to Toronto, I love to stay at the original Four Seasons. It sounds posh, but it's not. It's really economical compared to what I get for the value. So maybe for 50 bucks more or 80 bucks more a night over the Hyatt, I essentially get a 5-star hotel with luxurious accommodations and a concierge at the desk who will take care of getting my Maple Leafs tickets or my reservations for this. And of course, my kid and I still, trape around the city using the public transportation. The subway there is gorgeous, but like I can get the 5-star experience for very little, not much more than the cost of a budget hotel. And at the same time, feel like $1 million because it saves me all the time, all the mistakes. And that's what you're going to be offering to your customers. So instead of thinking in today's world of offering them a WordPress site that's just flat and pretty, you're going to offer mechanics that are valuable to them. And then you're going to be able to advise them, or for your own business, that the things that they could be selling should start with something that's a human connection. It's a phone call or a Zoom call, so that you can self-identify with your client or customer what it is that they really have as their pain. And you can offer it to them in the same way we used to in the old days. Like when somebody went into a bespoke tailor shop and said, make me look like $1 million. Or you actually went to one of those antique fairs or vintage clothing places, and you found personally that one-off cool pants or hat or whatever it was. Everything does not have to be automated. Everything does not have to be pre-made. And ironically, through my conversations this week, I was able to get validation that almost every single one of my clients feels the same way from their own experiences. And they were just looking for a way to express that on their website. So, for example, taking all the old content and leaving it alone is fine. You don't have to throw all your stuff away. But what you can do is just leave that there and set up a new, fresh front end to allow people to come in and understand your basic premise or proposition in just a few words, like a billboard. Got that thing, and you need help with this because you got a headache. I offer this. Have a free phone call with me. When they come in, much like I do myself, you can explain to them or ask them about the various things that might be common pain points that are in your wheelhouse with your product or your service. But then when the deliverable comes, you'd be surprised to find, and I've been pleasantly surprised, that most people are actually more interested in your personal help, even if it's scaled out in a weird way, like I'll talk about, like unlimited emails, than to go through lessons themselves. Because that's back to there's no way in infinitely short attention span theater that you can take all of your stuff and put it into a format that is simple enough to avoid people doing like my mom. Here's one example of that, by the way. So let's look at some mature documentation like WP Fusion. WP Fusion's docs are awesome. And WP Fusion is quite literally the supreme example of a business that does about a jillion things. If you were to go through this documentation, Jack is responsible for most of this, but like I had something to do with a few things. If you go through this, you're going to find an answer for just about everything under the sun, even lunch flows. I don't know the total page count, but it's in the thousands, if not tens of thousands. Now, what that means is that there is stuff in here for all of the integrations and all the things you can do and so forth. And Jack's done a great job of simplifying it. But Jack or Ace, or maybe myself, has to be continually doing things to update this. And then even so, what if somebody's using one component, but not the same component referenced here? Like let's use WooCommerce as an example. WooCommerce has like 1 trillion potential combinations when you go into WP Fusion. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I mean, literally, I can assure you, it's going to link infinitely and infinitely and infinitely and infinitely. You can see all the links that go out to other stuff. So if you look at it like a Swiss Army knife, to try to keep this documentation up to date so that a person like my mom, who's your client or your customer, could get to the answer they want, it's really, really hard. You know what's easy? Somebody having a call with Spence. Hey, what's going on? What are you trying to do? Most of you who are here probably have done this with me. What are you building? What's your recipe? What are you using? Why? Because I work in this world all day long. I'm like the concierge at the hotel at the Four Seasons, who I'm familiar with what's going on in Toronto this week. I know all the right people, all the right things, all the inside stuff. So let's bring this full circle. This is an example of how, in my particular case, but apply it to your own business, taking the time and effort to spend all my money on myself as the point of contact instead of just Facebook ads. I mean, you still need relationships to bring the raw leads in. Don't get me wrong. I'll talk about that in a second. But spending the time and effort for me to have calls with real people means I have an incredible conversion rate to something that is not just selling a cheap solution. First of all, WP Fusion as a plugin, I'm very happy when people buy it. It's 297 bucks and Jack deserves every ounce of that. Or I'm very happy if they buy lunch flows for $97. But ultimately, this isn't what most people want. What most people want is what I end up selling them over here, which is some kind of a concierge. Do this for me, hold my hand, show me how to use the remote control, right? And you guys have been through this yourself. It could be 97 bucks for the kit. It could be 1 hour for just show me how to make the recipe from the kit. Even though I could do it myself, I don't want to. All right, so let's bring this back home, because my whole point here is to say it's a fool's errand for you or anyone else to try to overcomplicate your homepage, to try to overstate all of the infinite things you do, to try to have old-fashioned marketing where you send more because people will just shut you down. Let's talk about that in terms of email, in terms of delivery of content, in terms of pricing and marketing. If you price yourself in the old way, you're like, well, you join the membership club and it's like X number of $27 a month for all the videos we make. I guarantee you, after 50,000 clients in 20 years, you will have a 3-month churn out. That type of business will last 3 months per customer, max 2 to 3. Why? Because there's nothing sticky about that. Infinite amounts of stuff are only so that the person can get their headache solved. They can remove that thing. It's not something that somebody needs to keep coming back to again and again and again and again. So, what's a different type of a membership site? A membership site or membership content that has ongoing need to be there. So, if you do happen to have some skills and you write some plugin or some kind of an ongoing service that is using data that's updated every month for the client, or like you're doing some SEO related stuff, or you're doing marketing stuff, or you're doing something with the creation of or editing of content, like the AEPI Parents Club, right? Like this was something. What was the 97? The 97 was for me to host it and me to keep the website up. That's a great example. If you are not doing that with your clients, you should have every client be hosted with you and offer that as part of your thing, because it's sticky. They're just going to be like, I cannot deal with the host. I don't know what you're talking about. Just take care of it for me. Along the way, using LaunchKit, you can obviously give them all the software updated without you fussing around, because you've got the IKEA furniture from me, and you can make it super easy. Just click a button, everything's updated. But because they've got that relationship, they're not going to leave anywhere. It's too much work to leave. They're not going to set up another domain pointing to another website and get their own subscriptions and all that stuff. Similarly, if you have something that is like a mastermind, but orient it at a price and at a value proposition where the relationships they get every month with the other people or from the top down are paying for themselves. Now, this is tricky, but it would have to be something that is not just like a problem that gets solved immediately. Like a headache is sort of a one-time problem. But if you had somebody, for example, that was in the diet business or in some kind of athletics, poker or riding bicycles in a marathon. If you had somebody that was interested in something to do with training for work, like how to do a forklift, all of those things have a recurring element. Let's use the forklift example. If a company has forklift driving employees, they probably have to pay insurance. In most cases, the insurance companies will give them a discount if they can show that the employees have been certified every single year, recurring training. You can offer a company a solution for how they can provide that training directly through you on a hosted website that gets updated, and you manage all of the membership part. You manage all the certificate part. You manage the website delivering to the, to the employees. Yes, you completed the training using LearnDash. The employer gets the value of paying you multiple times back in savings from the insurance company, because now they have a physical way to prove that all the employees have been through the proper training, passed with flying colors, and they do that on a regular basis. Gun licensing. This could have to do with legal or medical stuff. It could have to do with HIPAA records. What you need to do is try to find something that's attractive to yourself or part of your client's business that has greater value for you to manage for them, but in an easier way than for them to try to do it themselves. And oftentimes that amounts to you taking what I've shown you with the launch kit and simplifying it down. So for example, just let's say back to this Parents Club thing. They were using like 5 or 6 or 7 different free or reasonably free tools, but they were just messing it up. Like I was getting these ransom note emails that were written in Google Docs or something that led me to a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. And then it had a weird link that went to PayPal or to Venmo. And then they never really knew if I paid or everybody else paid. And then they would keep sending messages even though I'd already bought it. Whereas I was like, I could just take care of all of this. One simple plugin, 2 simple plugins, a simple layout on 2 pages, and all of this stuff becomes elegant and accomplished. Similarly, in some of the client calls I had this week, I've had clients who are trying to do something in the newspaper business where it's not so much newspaper, but it's more about the services that a newspaper for a certain community can deliver. Things to do with births and deaths and jobs and local opportunities in the community. And by being able to give a simple solution, they're actually not ending up selling it to the people who are going to subscribe for free. Rather, they're going to build a list of the free people who are then the target audience of all the real service providers. The advertisers or the service providers being funeral homes and bands to play at different events, attorneys who will help with the various things that are necessary in the event of a death or whatever. So these are some ideas whereby keeping it simple, you can actually build an idea that one side is not paying you, but they become the actual fodder for the other side. One of my examples in our WordPress world is the WordPress Weekly. One of my pals here runs this, and he does a great job. This is a free newsletter. Okay, Devinder. Here's the archives. These are really, 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 really simple. They're just a newsletter. I did this for another client of mine using Fluent CRM. It could not be simpler. This is what the newsletters look like. It's just a couple paragraphs with words. But what Devinder does is he sells advertising, right? So if you want to be sponsored, see where it says community sponsors. Some of these are paid. And his sponsorship is really simple. $500 for 4 issues, $1,500 for 13, $5,500. Now, let's talk about how much money is involved in this simple business. He just has to offer relevant information to a niche community who signs up for free. It's could not be simpler. To sign up now is just give your email and you're good to go, right? I think on the front page right there, just give your email. That's it. That's the whole business. I actually have this outlined in one of my WP Launchify office hours. When they sign up, his list grows. As it grows and he sends it out, he makes it clear that somebody could be a sponsor for their WordPress business or service or an outside business or service. And those people pay the amount you just saw. Devinder and I talked about it, and I will say it's an incredibly profitable business, and he does an amazing job of curating it. But the amount of work, he just has to put out one of these a week. He just has to put out one page a week. Going back to this. I'm not saying he doesn't do a good job. I'm saying he does an amazing job. This is an incredibly simple business. He's just essentially created a market between the people that essentially want the latest news about WordPress with the people that want to get to those eyeballs. And this is something that would be easily done using LaunchKit, piece of cake. Some of the stuff, I'm sure, like these news bits, he just picks up from the various sources, which is awesome. But most of the stuff is just, plain up. Here's some new stuff coming from the people in the community. All right. Let's go back here. Why am I bothering with all of this stuff? Let's talk about why you're doing your business. I'm going to be a little, Spence personal here. I share everything in public for the most part. Not too much about my kids, but like enough to know that I've got kids and so forth. What I have found over the years is I've had great success since I was a little kid as an entrepreneur by being, I want to say lazy. I want to call myself lazy. I don't feel like work for work's sake is of any value. I feel like the term I would use is I adjust my work around my life, because I have a philosophy which is sort of proven to be useful in this second trimester, hopefully going into my third trimester, that there's no value in busting your ass in order to please other people, or busting your ass in order to make so little money that you never have time to enjoy what is really each stage of your life. And again, because I'm 57, I'm going to be 58, and I've gone through a lot of drama. I still have some problems with my nerves and my back and so forth. I think that there is a false premise that some people are still following around, that by saving more or being a good boy or girl and following rules, or by getting a job, that your answers are going to come to you and your life is going to be better. And I say that's bullshit. The game is won like Captain Kirk doing the where he had to defeat the computer simulation the Kobayashi Maru. He had to defeat it not by playing by the rules. He defeated it by reprogramming the computer and cheating. Here's the cheat code. You can ask whatever you want from anybody to provide a pain point. You have a choice what kind of problems to solve and who to ask to solve the pain for. You do not have to work at a job. In fact, I am certifiably unable to work at a job because I cannot sit and listen to nincompoop people go in circles when I know I could have just taken 2 steps, solved the thing, been on with my day, and gone on a bike ride. So for any of you who are out there, it doesn't matter if you're watching this and you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, but especially if you're in your 50s like me and beyond, I am going to retire by doing the exact same thing I've been doing for the last 45 years, which is finding interesting people with interesting problems to solve their pain for. And in doing so, I'm optimizing, thank you, Sharon, I'm optimizing for my lifestyle. Well, what's Spence's lifestyle? Well, I bet it's a lot like yours. My lifestyle is I get up in the morning, and it used to be I'd get in the morning and I didn't have so many back problems and pains. And I don't want to keep talking about that, but I want to bring this up as a reference. I used to get up without physical problems, and I would take a walk and I would exercise and do these things because it always made me feel better. And then I would get into doing some interesting work for people. But along the way, I did find myself slipping into the problems of learning how to solve problems. So many toys, so many things, so many whatever. And days would go by with me cocking around. Like days and days and days would go by. Nothing would happen. And then when I would try to sell stuff, I would try to sell stuff that was like, let's sell something for $5 to 1,000 people. And what would happen is when you try to sell something for $5 to 1,000 people, you have 1,000 angry, snarky, complaining, whiny, bitchy people. And you end up really going nowhere. Now, when life kicked me in the crotch a little bit and I started having my back problems and my other stuff, and I realized I didn't have infinite time to cock around. And I mean, I raised 3 kids and on my own too. That didn't help either. I don't have this much time. And on my life, I mean, I hope I live to 100, but healthfully. I don't have this much time on my life. So now it's like, clock is ticking, tick, 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 tick. You realize very clearly, and I'm sharing this with you, that you can do more you can get more by doing less. So instead of making $5 products for people that are going to be unhappy, I was looking for $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 solutions that I could deliver in 5 minutes. Not necessarily all the time, but the metaphor stands. In other words, I inverted my target for the kind of person, the kind of company where they needed the value I could deliver. And then I optimized by getting rid of all of the distractions from my workflow, from my business, from what I do. And you can see that reflected in the stuff with LaunchKit and WP Launchify. The things that I used to market for are still kind of there on the website. If you go up here, WordPress Profitable Solutions is still there. When you go to this panel, this is my whole business. And this is what many of you have for your business. I would have people that had Frankenstein monsters because they try to do it themselves and they got, quote, help from somebody overseas or something. And shiny ball syndrome. They're trying to use every toy under the sun. If one is good, 10 is better. But here's what's changed. Up until about a year and a half ago, when I was able to put together the pieces of the launch kit and take this final step because of my back situation, I was optimizing for solving Frankensteins by managing Frankensteins. If you've got a Frankenstein, one of my team members, Luke or somebody else, will help you manage Frankenstein. We didn't try to kill Frankenstein. We didn't try to just get rid of Frankenstein. We didn't tell people to abandon Frankenstein. Most of the time, we're just like, well, we'll take over managing Frankenstein for you. And the difficulty was that was a Sisyphean task. It never got better. It was just like somebody who has a headache and you just, well, let's just keep talking about your headache. Whereas now, we gracefully ended our relationship. Luke and I haven't worked together for some time, since earlier, end of last year, I think. And since I've been doing the new launch kit and everything, I don't have this as an offering anymore. I'm not going to manage anybody's Frankenstein. Instead, we have a free call and we get rid of Frankenstein and we put somebody into something that is essentially the same tools, the same kit that I've used for my own businesses to simplify. Now, another part of this is how many websites does somebody need? In the old days, we'd have a website for Body Boss and a website for this and a website for the e-commerce and a website for the, like, literally, I have had some clients, many of you might agree, who have 3 or 4 websites when you come to me. Some of my best success stories are from me getting rid of that. It's the Marie Kondo situation. Well, I'm guilty as well. I've had 11, 12, 13 different brands and products and whatever. I said, screw all that. Everything now is sold through one hub on WP Launchify. And I've got the tools now that simplify your ability to deliver that for yourself or your clients, because you can connect everything with the CRM, Fluent CRM particularly. And in doing so, I was able to bring all of my stuff for many of my clients down to one core site. Now, I do have a secondary site that I use for marketing, which is another example of simplicity, but I use, for example, Spencer Foreman. Now, I happen to get lucky because when I was in the internet early days, I got my own name, spencerforeman.com. But this could be any old name. I have this site that I do not like, 1WDTV, which is part of my old business in WordPress. I hate the domain. I hate it, but it's short as hell. So what I did is I ended up using that as a marketing tool so I can do cool things like this. Have I helped, right? I can use this for a short link generator or a form generator, and you give out really short little links. And in doing so, I got a little bit more simplicity. So one main website to sell, my hub, my membership, one that is my social network connection for Twitter and Facebook, LinkedIn. One is just a great short link generator, and I use it for marketing. And the end result, less parts, less pieces, less confusion. Everything goes through one simple tool. What I learned there and what you learn there in your business of working with me and so forth with LaunchKit is that you can do the same for your clients, because all of the things that I've done are now essentially snapshots. They're recipes. They're things that use the very same ingredients that I teach you about in the Minute Launch. So if we go back over here, and I'm kind of tying a lot of loose ends, if we go back to the Minute Launch, guess where this recipe came from? It came from my own experience delivering these solutions for my own businesses as well as for my clients. The delivery of the software, the management of how the experiences are pain points that I myself suffered infinitely, and I solved for thousands of clients. And I got frustrated with how much time it was going to take, because I know that I still need more stuff to be done to my back. I know that I have to spend more time on my relationships or my kids or my well-being, because what the hell am I going to do with the time on this planet? Sit there in front of the computer 24/7 grinding away? No. In doing so, my clients have responded favorably, many of you included, by saying, when I came to you, Spence, you're the first person that ever put this all together and talked to me as a human being with this free call. And in doing so, you gave me the confidence to understand that you could be the person who solves my problem. Will you solve my problem of how to change the channel on the TV? And I go, yeah, it's super simple. It's $97 a month. And then either an hour or a week or 2 weeks or a month we'll commit to, and I will be the person that gets you where you want to be. And then we'll stay in the relationship for $97 a month. Ta-da. Super simple. You benefit from that here, but I want to share that that's how I have simplified. Now, imagine what the revenue stream looks like. Instead of the days where I was selling just the plugin or just my membership site, and I had to constantly be pouring more and more and more stuff in, but people kept leaving after 3 months. Now nobody ever leaves. First of all, when they come in, there's the relationship part. Spence, you're my concierge. Well, that's the point. I'm going to be the buffer for all of you and my clients about what's new. Where's the technology? Who can I ask? That's part of the value proposition that you can do in your business, right? When you look at here, besides the software bundle, it's unlimited email consultation. How the hell can I do unlimited email? Simple. I've got IKEA behind me. I've got minute recipes and documentation. There is not yet been a single question asked of me by anybody that I didn't already have the answer for, because I've been spending 20 years doing this. And I bet if you spend a little bit of time, you will find that you have the same experience. Like the things that you know, you can answer them today, or you were out looking at that yesterday and you saw the new version of the answer. So unlimited email means they have to go through, and you would have to do this. You have to send me an email. And I try to suggest to people, look, don't send me an essay, War and Peace. Just send me a simple bullet list of one or two questions, or send me one question at a time. And I can then use that in my iPhone or on my laptop or my desktop to answer questions at my convenience. When I'm not stretching out my nerves in my back, when I'm not on a walk or bike ride or hopefully playing pickle, when I'm not with my kids at their hockey game or, eating dinner or something. And the clients are fine with that because email is very asynchronous. People, thankfully, unlike a phone call or Zoom, don't expect immediate response. But if somebody does want immediate response, if they want Spence, they schedule a call, which also buffers that out a bit. And I make my day from my calls are 9 to 3, but let's say 9 to 2, 4 days a week. I can have special exceptions, but that means that I've got roughly, a window where people are very graciously saying, oh, that's when I get a piece of Spence. And I'll pay for it by the hour, or I'll pay for it, they're saying, by the sprint or whatever, because I can say to them, if you buy this, I'm fitting this amount of time at a discount to solve your problem. I'm going to commit to solving your problem with your help, but I'm not going to have to keep ringing the bell. I don't have to keep going ding, 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 hour by hour. And at the same time, if they send me an email that's got like, holy moly, what a problem to solve, I don't respond back with all the answers sometimes. I'll respond back with, this is clearly something you need to buy a piece of my time for, and we'll get together and I'll help you solve it. And so all of that works so that I can take what's the best part of the thing that's unique to me. Remember at the beginning of this long conversation, the thing that's unique in a modern world is you. Well, for Spence, that's Spence. There will never be another Spence. There's an AI me in my voice and maybe soon in video, but hopefully nobody absconds that and comes up with a clone of me without my knowing about it. So in the meantime, I am unique. And of all the WordPress experts, all the marketing automation, all the psychology, all the people who can help you with their business, it's a dog and pony show. You can pick anybody you want, but there's not going to be a me. Whereas if you write software, or if you have a bland service that does what a bunch of other things do and other people do that can be replicated with AI, guess what? You've got no value proposition anymore. So if I bring this all together, my takeaways for today, and today I promised it's not my typical Friday thing, but I wanted to share this with you, are as follows. Number one, the thing that you're going to make the most money from in today's world is going to be selling essentially you, or something of you that you can productize. So the you is, hopefully, I really, really, really recommend this. Your face, your name, your touch, even if it's on a brand, right? Like I've got Lunch Club, you can see there, I've got WP Launch, I've got Launch Flows, I've got a lot of launch stuff, but it's still Spence. And I still do Spencer Form in a social. If you're not willing to do that, I'm not saying you can't succeed. I'm just saying I can't help you, because those are problems that are going to need a lot of marketing, a lot of brand development and recognition, a lot of team stuff. What I can help you with is how to build a company of one, or a company of a small number of people that have you at the center with your face, your name, your brand. Because the thing you're selling is essentially the concierge relationship to help the otherwise smart people not be nincompoops and hold their hand over the remote control of their business or their pain. Number two, you have to be super clear about which pains you're going to solve, and choose the pains that are the highest dollar amount for the least amount of your time, but are representative to the customer of a huge win. If somebody had that, bowling ball of headache, I've been there myself. Let's see if I still have that picture up there. If they had this dude's problem, okay, they're going to pay any amount of money for that. But you can most certainly represent to people what it is that you're doing in terms of how it solves that, versus trying to sell a low cost thing to lots of people. There's definitely some kind of factual validation for the more the people spend in a personal relationship, the easier they are as customers, versus the people who spend less in an impersonal, they end up being trolls. It's just a fact. And there's stuff in the middle too. All right. But just go for it. The big ticket wins that you can solve for a smaller number of people in a more personal way. Number 3, optimize your systems, optimize your tool set by using what I provide to you. I'm passing it along to you, but like do less things with less words, with less plugins, with less complications, because all you really need is a way to demonstrate, get somebody into a call with you. And then in the back of your head, in the back room, you've got a million different oddball things you could offer and pull out, but you do not need to put those on the front page. You do not need to make a million pages of documentation for all the infinite combinations of things you might do. Instead, just have a real personal phone call and then use your human brain, maybe use your 1970s computer to take some notes and call it a day, because that's how I do it. That's how a lot of people do it today. It's crazy how good that is for making money. And it's crazy how good that is for making people happy, because what they really wanted was, mirror, mirror on the wall, is this idea crazy at all? That's it. And if you can deliver the solution, even with them being involved, the validation saves them from going off in infinitely expensive loops and mistakes and whatever. Finally, even though there is a concierge element to this, you have to build something sticky into what you're doing. Don't have everything be one and done. Do not have content that it's 3 months of infinite stuff and then people bail out. Give something that's sticky. I showed you, if you do software like I do, if you do hosting, amazingly easy. Get your clients all to be hosted, included in your package. The API thing, with this fraternity. I said to them, look, it's $97 a month for just hosting the thing. And it's like $100 every time you want me to change this one page. Super profitable. They're thrilled because they're making all that money on each of the events, which they're not profiting like in somebody's pocket, but it's paying for the parents club to do the things they need to do. It's a win-win for everybody. And be selective in that regard when it comes to your clients. You can't find out exactly how much people have, but I would rather be with people who understand that the cost of the service is much higher for the concierge level. Like they choose to stay at the Four Seasons Hotel because they know they want the concierge, than the person who's like looking for the Holiday Inn Express and you're nickel and diming, because life is too short for that. There's 8 billion people on the planet. I think there's something like 4.5, 5 billion are online. And in America, there's 360 million people, of which, how many do you need, who are potentially clients that need a website or a business website or a solution for some kind of short-term problem. Spend your effort on building relationships with those kinds of people. Now, I didn't talk about marketing here, but I want to just mention, because I referenced Facebook and ads, I have not to date spent a dime, never, on ads. Not one dime on ads. I think I cocked around one time of 10 years ago to see how Facebook ads worked, to try to see what would happen. And I just said, this is ridiculous, because at the end of the day, what I'm in the business of is providing infinite free content that shows people a breadcrumb back to a better solution. And as of late, the solution is not being a Frankenstein manager, it's a Frankenstein replacer. And it is a great feeling. It's a great feeling. I mean, I know this was a little late in the comment, but it's a great feeling to finally have, after all these years on WordPress, achieved what I really had as a vision in my head from the early days. But we just honestly didn't have all of the components. We didn't have the environment. We didn't have the world where everybody was post-COVID and working from home and running online businesses. People were different. They were all, people were spending $25,000 for a website in the late 90s, 1999. It was madness. Like, oh my God, a website, I got to have it. And they were spending $25,000 for an HTML 2-page website. Then people got like into all these various tools and various things, and it went up and down and up and down. But like with WordPress, nobody is any longer enamored with a pretty website. You can click a button and an AI generates this whole thing. But none of those sites can compete with what you're really able to deliver for functionality or marketing. And they don't understand the sales or the psychology. They don't understand how to solve the problem for the client, the customer. They're just pretty websites. So if you're in that business of being able to get people to call you, by spreading the word that you're a problem solver for this or that type of business, right? I help companies with forklift drivers. I help companies that are teaching how to do better analytics. I have people who want to learn gun training or get a certification to carry a firearm concealed, whatever it is. Those are the businesses that are going to allow you to make more profit with less work for yourself or for your clients. And with your clients, if it's sticky, you're going to build a recurring revenue business where people will not leave at 2 months or 3 months, like they've clearly done on all my own sites, my client sites in the past. Because how many base lessons do I need before I realize, like, okay, I'm good? There's a very good base site, Scott's Base Lessons. He does great, but like he's got a trillion base lessons now, and it's not too expensive to stick around. But at a certain point, you're like, I got it, I'm good. Whereas nobody ever cancels a hosted website. I mean, they just keep it around forever. I have some clients with me now for the 20 years because why leave? There's no reason to leave. It's a utility. It's like buying an ad in the yellow pages because you've got a coffee shop. You just have to have it there. Okay. Thank you for your comments today. This was a little different. I like to mix it up a bit, but I think it's important because, I'm trying to do a lot of things to bring people home into what is really working. And what's working for me has been, I'm in the high 95% range of conversion now. The clients who come to me can take something at the low end for free, or they can take like $97, $47 self-service. But most everybody's going into the at least 1 hour or more of conversation and then using LaunchKit, which means I'm able to build an army of enthusiastic fans who are also creating stuff that I can share back to this community. And there's examples I've talked about, like the canva.com site, which, by the way, is having an increase in price, which is unfortunate. I think because they're trying to go into AI stuff, which is, I don't think, a good idea. But that, I feel like what we can do is build WordPress as a service with this tool set and this mindset that all of us can benefit, because the more that we create, the more that we share and systematize it, the better it becomes like a platform that anybody can come in and go, wow, I'm in. Plus there's the monetization. So if you're looking at this on WP Launch Kit, click the link, get the offer, join up. It's free, $97 a month. You've got nothing to lose. I'll share that screen here. WP Launch Kit, launchkit.com. And in doing so, I think that you're going to find, get your kit today. You're going to find that like everything you've ever wanted to do is already available, whether directly or indirectly through this relationship. So I hope that you'll join me if you haven't already. And I really want to thank everybody who shows up on Fridays. It is a long Labor Day weekend. I was supposed to have a very interesting procedure done on my back next week called a disc seal. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that. I know it. It's like fix a flat for your leaky discs. They cancel at the last minute. I may or may not have it, but I want to say that anybody who has any tips or tricks about anything in that regard, always email me, because it's been a journey for me. I'm much, much better in many ways, but this is something that's driven me to be better, like I suggested, at optimizing my time and sitting stuff. No, I'm not in the kind of pain I was when I started, but it's like everybody has their stuff. And I know, Sharon, you had your stuff because you had the hurricane wiped out your town and stuff. Everybody's got something under the hood. And I don't want to for a moment think that that's not the way it is. I'm a stoic, right? So I believe every day I get up, life is going to take a dump in my coffee. My mindset is, if it doesn't happen or it's not too big of a dump, that's a great day. So I'm just saying next week I may be off for a day or two if I don't have the procedure. But otherwise, please do reach out to me if you have questions or comments. I love them on this YouTube video, and I'll see you next week. Hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. Cheers.